the country. The big story of the hour, the blasts that have taken place in Doha in Qatar. The Israeli media and officials have confirmed that Israel carried out a targeted strike in Qatar's capital. It was aimed at senior Hamas leadership. The operation reportedly focused on high-ranking figures, including Khalil, al-Hayya and Osama al-Jabari. The strike comes amid heightened regional tensions and has drawn swift international attention. Witnesses in Doha's Qatar district reported multiple blasts and smoke plumes rising from the area. The Israeli military said that the strike on the Hamas delegation in the Qatari capital of Doha was part of an operation that was dubbed quote-unquote Summit of Fire. Mark Sutherland joining me on the telecast. Mark, what is your interpretation of what happens next? Is this a massive step back from all the progress that was being made relating to the ceasefire talks and hostage release negotiations between Hamas and Israel?
Well, good to be with you again. We can look at that. People will look at this from there, depending on what side of the fence that they wish to sit on. The thing that we have to remember is that the Hamas leadership has been in Qatar for many, many years, living it up on a very, very nice lifestyle. Also, Hamas has not really, as you said, this war would have ended on October the 8th, 9th, if Hamas had released the hostages straight away. Hamas has been drip feeding those for many, many years. And as I say, the leadership have been living in Qatar for many years. Remember also that Qatar finances al-Jazeera, and like many things, is that we could say that countries, in one sense, are funding both sides or speaking out of both sides of their mouth. On the one hand, they are then seeking negotiations with Israel, but on the other hand, they are giving accommodation, solace to the Hamas leadership within Qatar. Where we go from here, you ask a very, very important question, especially as Israel is on the brink of now going into Gaza City to clear out Hamas, what's left of it within Gaza City, and asking the civilians to move to the dedicated place that they have asked them to then move to. There will be, as there already is, condemnation from various countries, but also on the other hand, like UAE, etc., behind the scenes, whether they want to, they won't admit it publicly, but on the quiet, they will be saying Hamas needs to be dealt with. But this is going to, as you quite rightly say, how does this affect things? This is going to play out. But constantly, as the Israeli government has said, the war ends if all the hostages, alive and dead, and the ones that are dead, unfortunately, would be then released. Thank you.
Stay on with me, Mark. We're getting more information. After these strikes in Qatar, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has now released a statement. Israel has claimed full responsibility of the attack. In a comment on X, Netanyahu has stated that Israel initiated it, Israel conducted it, and Israel takes full responsibility for it. So again, Mark, do want to understand from you, if not Qatar, which was playing the mediator, the negotiator, which Middle Eastern nation will step up to the task? It doesn't look like many nations are really interested. In fact, there have been, I think every single nation in the Middle East has condemned Israel for what they call a genocide that is taking place in Gaza.
Well, I'm afraid to say that in regard to the accusations of genocide, I'm not afraid to say this, that is severely in question. I would say that it's not a genocide, including the UK government. In the last couple of days have actually released a report to say that this is not genocide. If you were committing genocide, then you are doing a very, very bad job of that, because the actual population of Gaza has actually increased since the 7th of October 2023. They are not my figures, they are other figures that are out there through NGOs, etc., that could be then looked at. The thing is, within the Middle East, it's all about the strong man. There are people saying things publicly, but privately they are also saying we need to deal with Hamas. If you have a situation where you have Jordan, which is turning around and doing stop and search, I've experienced it myself, because they wish to clamp down on the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, which is what Hamas bases its ideology on, and a number of Arab states have outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood. The UK is not. That's another thing. But again, Australia has now done
the point I'm trying to make over here is what next? What happens now? Because these negotiations have been carrying on since the October 7 attack took place. Were Israel and Hamas reaching anywhere in terms of some sort of a resolution, conclusion of a deal? And now that an attack has happened on Qatar, which is a key negotiator, have we taken many steps back? And what will it take to move forward for a peaceful resolution? Or do you think the military strikes by Israel, whether it is on Hamas, on Gaza, whether it is on Lebanon, whether it is Syria, or we talk about Iran, the military strikes that happen, we talk about Hezbollah, we talk about, the strikes that have happened against Houthis in Yemen. Is that, and now finally the latest one in Qatar, is that a solution?
You've just talked about where all the other fields of contact in regard to the Iranian ring of fire around Israel. You've made a very good point in regard to that. The point is this, is that I think also within the Israeli government, they have also had enough. They've had enough of the drip feed of the release of hostages, and they want all of the hostages, dead or alive, to now be released. And also, as President Trump a couple of days ago then issued a warning, a last warning. And I think this is, respectfully, this is part of it. Where this goes from here, to be honest, I am not sure. What I do know is that the Israelis are now, again, as I said earlier, are now looking at Gaza City to fully go in there and, within their own words, to then deal with Hamas, to remove Hamas completely from Gaza. And by the fact is that gone to the leadership that took over from after Sinwar's death, that is who they have now dealt with as well, because the accusation easily could be said that people are being very disingenuous, that the Israeli government feel they're being played.
Talking about the people, talking about the locals in Israel, there is, we'll address that, because there has been a soundbite that has come. This is of a mother who has been appealing for the release of the hostages. One of, her son right now is captured by the Hamas terrorists, and here's a soundbite. And she, at this point of time, has made an emotional appeal following the strike. She has condemned the strike. She has expressed deep fear for her son's life. Listen into what she said.
אני רועדת מפחד. אני רועדת מפחד. יכול להיות שברגעים אלה ממש ראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו בעצם מתנקש במתן שלי וחרץ את גורלו למוות. מי שמחליט לסכן את החיים של הילד שלי בכוונה רוצח אותו. למה ראש הממשלה מתעקש לפוצץ כל סיכוי קטן לעסקה? למה? החיים של מתן שלי בסכנה ממשית. כבר 22 חודשים, עד מתי? שוב ושוב ושוב ראש הממשלה מחבל בעסקה. בכל עסקה שנמצאת על הפרק. נמאס לי. נמאס, לעם ישראל נמאס מהמלחמה הזאת. סיימו אותה כבר ותחזירו את כולם בהסכם כולל.
She goes on to say that Israelis are tired of the war and she wants her son to be released, and she cannot take this separation for any longer. In fact, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Katz have said that they believe Doha attack was entirely justified. Giving further details on the operation, Netanyahu has said that he ordered the strike today at noon after identifying operational opportunity. He also said that he ordered the security forces to prepare a strike on Hamas leaders after Jerusalem and the Gaza attacks. Mark, coming back to you again, yesterday we saw there was this gruesome attack that had happened in East Jerusalem. There were 6 Israelis that died. And this is what Prime Minister Netanyahu is indicating. He's saying that, is it some sort of a retribution? The fact that those people were killed and there has been a consequence of it by way of an attack, by way of a strike. This is what he seems to be hinting at.
First of all, I'd just like to say, hearing that mother of a hostage, hearing her speak, I have total sympathy for that. I wouldn't want to be in her position, because we are talking about humanity. But this is difficult. This has always been extremely difficult, and that's how Hamas then work, because they know that they can use those hostages to lever in this situation, and that is why there is frustration from the government to turn around and say we have to fully go in and actually deal with this. The awful incident that happened in East Jerusalem yesterday also shows you the threat that is against Israel and the Jewish people, and that is the subject of Judah and Samaria. Is another huge issue. Of course, Palestinians would call that the West Bank. That's another issue, and Israel is also concerned about the security there, understandably, of its own citizens. That's why that played out. In regard to, I think, retribution, you're entitled to give that viewpoint, but I also believe that the strike on Doha, this is my personal opinion, in many ways has been a long time coming, because it's then understanding that they will put the pressure on. Israel has also given quite rightly through their actions that they can reach anyone, anywhere that they deem that is actually harming their citizens, which in this case the nation is under threat. It is fighting for its own existence. That is what it is dealing with.
Okay,
and of course, hence why. Sorry. Go.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, stay on with me. There have been global condemnation